each child, and there are a bunch of them, each child has contributed in some way of their own. And it also gives us something to talk about at the Shabbos table. I recommend it to all parents to have their kids help them write their books.
This is the Book of Life. I'm Heidi Rabinowitz. The Unofficial Hogwarts Haggadah is the creation of Rabbi Moshe Rosenberg, who also wrote Morality for Muggles, Ethics in the Bible and the World of Harry Potter. I spoke to Rabbi Rosenberg by Skype, and I'm afraid there may have been a basilisk inside the walls of Skype whispering in parcel tongue, because you may notice some weird hissing noises in the background. Please consider it part of the magic. I also want to let you know about the #Tripod campaign, which we talk about during the interview. Please check out the March 18th post at bookoflifepodcast.com to learn more about Tripod and to see all my recommendations for podcasts you should try. Rabbi Rosenberg, just in case there are any listeners who aren't sure what a Haggadah is, can you define it for us?
The Haggadah is the traditional text that is recited on the first and second nights of Passover as we conduct the traditional Passover Seder, the festive meal, and all of its rituals.
Okay. Let's get started by establishing your geek cred. Just how big a geek are you, and what are your fandoms?
Oh my goodness. I am a pretty big geek, very science fiction oriented, more devoted to space opera than to fantasy. Being called the Harry Potter rabbi is, I think, a modernization and perhaps a step up from being known as the Star Trek rabbi before that. I take pride in being able to find meaning for life and for religious life all over, but especially in the worlds of science fiction and literature.
What inspired you to create a Harry Potter-themed Haggadah?
It was actually a natural offshoot of another book that I wrote. In 2011, I published Morality for Muggles, Ethics in the Bible and the World of Harry Potter. And that book was my first attempt at putting together themes from Jewish tradition and Harry Potter on serious issues of life. Jewish tradition and the writings of J.K. Rowling both try to deal with the crucial questions of life, questions of relationships, questions of good and evil, questions of education, and how often they coalesce and agree, and sometimes they don't. I see this all as an exercise to help myself and others know how it's possible to find meaning and guidance for living a meaningful life in everything that we do and everything that we read.
Is this book purely for entertainment, or is it a fully functional Haggadah that can be used at a Passover Seder?
This is a fully functional Haggadah. It has the entire Haggadah text. It has a wonderful translation. And it is meant to be at your side and to be used. And it is not meant as something which is kitschy or gimmicky. It's meant as something that will couch meaningful Torah and meaningful ethical thought in a way that is palatable to more people and to people who otherwise might not have been open to it. I told one interviewer that it may be the first book of sermons that ever gets read.
So a fan work that is Watsonian is written from an in-universe perspective in the way that Watson would speak of a Sherlock Holmes adventure. And the term Doyleist describes a real-life point of view in the way that Arthur Conan Doyle would speak of Holmes. So is the Hogwarts Haggadah Watsonian or Doyleist?
Well, first I need to know how you knew that before Star Trek in my life came Sherlock Holmes.
Aha! No, I didn't know. Lucky guess.
Well, I would say this is more Doyleist. I'm really standing outside of it. I'm not one of the characters. I don't enter the universe. I am somebody who has been suffused with the atmosphere of that universe and suffused with Jewish texts. I am the man who brought together chocolate and peanut butter to make the Reese's peanut butter cup and try and show how two of them can help you understand each other and appreciate each other even better.
Give us a teaser of some of the Harry Potter content that you've woven into this Haggadah. I'm especially interested to hear about some of my favorite Haggadah moments, like the 4 questions, the Hillel sandwich, and the opening of the door for Elijah.
Ooh, that's wonderful. So the 4 questions already opens the door to the idea that the Haggadah is all about education. It's all about stimulating questions. It's all about catering to different learning styles. And isn't that, after all, what it's about when you have 4 houses in Hogwarts, each devoted to a different type of personality or a different learning style? They don't have to be identical to both get the idea that education has to be as individualized as possible. One size does not fit all. One of the questions that I asked students, and I just put a potpourri of their responses, is how do you learn best? And I had the widest variety of responses, from a teacher standing in front of the room to through games to in my sleep, all different types of learning styles. And then, of course, is the idea that in order for education to work properly, you have to be a lupin. You have to be open for students approaching you and asking questions. You can't be necessarily a Snape or an Umbridge who is so forbidding that it's very difficult to ask a question because you're worried that you're going to be slapped down. So that's a little bit about the 4 questions. I think I'm skipping one. You said, Elijah, and what's the second one?
The Hillel sandwich.
There is a little piece about the Hillel sandwich, the korech. When we deal with the bitter things in life, Hillel is teaching us to contextualize them. That even when we are beset by difficulties, the symbols of bitterness, we surround them with symbols of freedom as well, and we recognize that life is that sort of a sandwich. Sounds a little Forrest Gumpian, I think. Harry managed to do that even in the darkest times, and this is not even in the Haggadah, but the ability to produce a Patronus means that even during times of greatest travail, you're able to call upon resources of resilience, of positive memories, and you're able to really focus upon them. And at the end of book 7, only Luna and Ernie were able to produce a Patronus, having been taught by Harry, and they were able to focus even when Harry wasn't able to. Sometimes our students can even surpass us in these types of things. As for opening the door for Elijah, I have a little piece about what opening the door means, how unusual it is in Jewish history to feel secure enough to be able to open the door and not worry what's on the other side. In the wizarding world, they weren't worried about a pogrom on the other side, or a Cossack, or a Gestapo officer, or a terrorist. They were worried, the Dursleys were worried that the world of wizardry might impinge upon their small world, and they ran away from it. That is an artificial door that we put up, and fortunately Hagrid found them even on the island where they hold themselves up. But we are happy to be able to finally, at least one night, express that we put ourselves under the protection of God, and we're confident that this one night, the other side of the door doesn't reveal somebody of a forbidding nature. I did ask a question to my students: who would you most like to see on the other side of that door if it could be any one of the Hogwarts characters? You had a lot of the standard ones that you would expect of major characters. But one student wrote that he would like to see the CGI dragon that they produced for the 7th movie. And one of them, I'm proud to say, said that he would like to see Rabbi Rosenberg on the other side of that door.
Aww.
That student is getting a very good mark this semester.
Have you created a Harry Potter version of the Seder plate?
No, I have not. We have a beautiful graphic of the traditional Seder plate. And I was treading a thin line over here because I wanted to make it clear that this is a serious Haggadah and that I was not spoofing, I was not parodying anything about the actual Seder, that you could use this for a real Seder. On the other hand, when it came to something like Haggadah, which itself seems removed from reality, and yet it is such an amazing allegory for how chains of events start, that lent itself naturally to making a Harry Potter version and showing how everything went back to one key thing which led to everything else.
NPR recently started this campaign called Tripod, #Tripod, to encourage people to try new podcasts and to encourage the 1/5 of Americans who do listen to podcasts to teach their friends how to listen to podcasts. So in the spirit of Tripod, I would like to ask you if you have any recommendations for a podcast that you enjoy.
This is an extremely nepotistic response. My daughter and some of her colleagues do a podcast which is entitled Nice Jewish Fangirls, and I, in fact, gave them the very first interview for also similar nepotistic reasons. But I think I would recommend them even if I weren't related to her, but I'm a little bit too close to even say that.
Okay, fair enough. And for my contribution for Tripod, I would like to recommend Harry Potter and the Sacred Text.
They have actually reached out to us. We might end up on that podcast, but you got us first.
In the spirit of Tikkun Olam, how do you think the Hogwarts Haggadah helps to heal the world in any way?
I think that it aids in essential communication. You can only have good result when people connect to their roots and to the people around them. Torah helps you do that. Harry Potter helps you do that. And Harry Potter helps people realize that Torah is helping you do that. And if a few more people, through reading and using this Haggadah, can realize what the Torah has been trying to say, because in so many ways it's also what Harry Potter is trying to say. They're not identical. I'm not putting them on the same level. I'm not trying to rank them. But if they can realize what the important things are in life and become more thoughtful and live more meaningful lives, so then this isn't just a gimmick. This is really education, and that's what the Seder is all about.
Will you be having a Harry Potter themed Seder this year?
Oh, you can bet that there will be some on the table, but I do a congregational Seder at my synagogue where I'm the rabbi, and I always put out a wide variety of Haggadah texts for people to take so that when it gets boring, they can read. And of course, Harry Potter will be one of them, but there are plenty of other wonderful ones. I'm expecting to buy my own new Haggadah this year and not just depend upon my own Haggadah. I know what my Haggadah says. I want to see what somebody else says.
So what else would you like to talk about that I haven't thought to ask you?
Oh my goodness. Carte blanche? Well, first I would like to say I'm not doing this alone. I'm doing this as part of a team. The graphic artist, Aviva Shur, was a godsend. She immediately understood the vision. My children have become my social media and editorial experts. Thank God I have raised journalists in my family and editors, and each child, and there are a bunch of them, each child has contributed in some way of their own, and it also gives us something to talk about at the Shabbos table. I recommend it to all parents to have their kids help them write their books. My wife is really patient because she always puts up with whatever big idea I'm working on, even though I've never finished up the one before. And there's another big idea which has nothing to do with writing that I'm trying to plug along the way. I'm also a Judeo-tech integrator, which means I try to find wonderful things in educational technology in the general world and apply them to Jewish education. And I'm enormously grateful to my school, the SER Academy, for giving me the time and paying me to do things like that. I don't think it exists anywhere else. But the fact is that my latest kick is gamification, education through gaming. And a project that I'm trying to get off the ground involves a group of schools and a company in Israel called Compedia, which is cutting-edge augmented reality, virtual worlds. I am trying to have that company design the tools that will enable students and their teachers to create a virtual world of education. sort of like a Jewish educational version of Club Penguin, designed by the kids themselves and by their teachers, and just enabled by the technology company.
Rabbi Moshe Rosenberg, thanks so much for speaking with me.
Thank you so much for having me. It's been wonderful.
Hi, this is Suzanne Nelson, author of Serendipity's Footsteps. I'll be joining you soon on the Book of Life podcast. I'd like to dedicate my episode to lovers of serendipity, shoes, and the more of life, because sometimes when fate and magic mingle, an extraordinary shoe can walk into many lives and change them all.
If you enjoy the Book of Life podcast, please become a patron at patreon.com/bookoflife. Leave a review on iTunes or a comment on our blog at bookoflifepodcast.com. You can also like our page at facebook.com/bookoflifepodcast. Follow us at twitter.com/bookoflifepod. Email us at bookoflifepodcast@gmail.com or leave us a voicemail at 561-206-2473. The Book of Life is a podcast service of the Feldman Library at Congregation B'nai Israel in Boca Raton, Florida at cbiboca.org and is supported in part by the Association of Jewish Libraries at jewishlibraries.org. Our background music is provided by the Freilach Makers Klezmer String Band. Thanks for listening and happy reading.